Then he went out to have a drink at the bar, joining some of the American reporters. They were talking about the fight, and all of them agreed that Fernandez wouldn't last more than 4 rounds. One of them told the story of the Mexican fighter Hercules Careño. Careño was almost 6.5 feet tall, unusually tall for Mexico, where people tend to be short. And he was strong, too. He worked unloading sacks at the market or the butcher's, and someone convinced him to try boxing. He got a late start. He might have been 25. But in Mexico, heavyweights are few and far between, and he won all his fights. This is a country with good bantamweights, good flyweights, good featherweights, even the occasional welterweight, but no heavyweights or light heavyweights. It has to do with the tradition and nutrition, morphology. Now Mexico has a president who's taller than the President of the United States. This is the first time it's ever happened. Gradually, the parents here are getting taller. It used to be unthinkable. A Mexican president would come up to the American president's shoulder, at most. Sometimes the Mexican president's head would be barely an inch or two above the president's belly button. But that's just how it was. But now the Mexican upper class is changing. They're getting richer, and they go looking for wives north of the border. That's what you call improving the race. A short Mexican sends his short son to college in California. The kid has money and does whatever he wants and impresses some girls. There's no place on earth with more dumb girls per square foot than a college in California. Bottom line, the kid gets himself a degree and a wife, who moves to Mexico with him. So then the short Mexican grandkids aren't so short anymore. They're medium, and meanwhile their skin's getting lighter too. These grandkids, when the time comes, set off on the same journey of initiation as their father. American college, American wife, taller and taller kids. What this means is that the Mexican upper class, of its own accord, is doing what the Spaniards did, but backward. The Spaniards, who were hot-blooded and didn't think too far ahead, mixed with the indigenous women, raped them, forced them to practice their religion, and thought that they meant they were turning the country white. Those Spaniards believed in a mongrel whiteness, but they overestimated their semen, and that was their mistake. You can't just rape that many people. It's mathematically impossible. It's too hard on the body. You get tired. Plus, they were raping from the bottom up, when what would have made more sense would be raping from the top down. They might have gotten some results if they've been capable of raping their own mongrel children, and then their mongrel grandchildren, and even their bastard great-grandchildren. But who goes out to rape people when you're 70 and you can hardly stand on your own 2 feet? You can see the results all around you. The semen of those Spaniards, who thought they were Titans, just got lost in the amorphous mass of thousands of Indians. The first mongrels, the ones with 50-50 blood, took charge of the country. Those were your ministers, your soldiers, your shopkeepers, your founders of new cities. And they kept on raping, but it didn't yield the same fruits, since the Indian women they were raping gave birth to mestizos with a smaller percentage of white blood, and so on, until we come to this fighter, Hercules Careño, who started out winning either because his rivals were even worse than he was or because the matches were fixed, which got some Mexicans to boast about having a real heavyweight champion. And one fine day Hercules Careño was taken to the United States, and they matched him with a drunken Irishman and then a black guy who'd been smoking pot and then a fat Russian, and he beat them all, and it filled the Mexicans with happiness and pride. Now their champion had hit it big time. And then they set up a fight against Arthur Ashley in Los Angeles. Any of you guys see that fight? I did. They called Arthur Ashley a sadist. That's the first fight when he got the name. Poor Hercules Careño was wiped right off the map. From round 1 you could tell it was going to be a massacre. The sadist took his time. He was in no hurry, picking the perfect spots to land his hooks, turning each round into a monograph, round 3 on the subject of the face, round 4 on the liver. In the end, it was all Hercules Careño could do to hang in till round 8. After that, you could still see him fighting in a third-rate rings. He almost always went down in round 2. Then he tried to get work as a bouncer, but he was in such a fog he couldn't hold down a job for more than a week. He never went back to Mexico. Maybe he'd forgotten he was Mexican. The Mexicans, of course, forgot him. He started to beg on the streets, and one day he died under a bridge. The pride of the Mexican heavyweights, said the reporter. Then he went out to have a drink at the bar, joining some of the American reporters.